Android tutorial, and today my topic of discussion will be RESTful web services. And as you guys know, every most of the modern Android applications or any even iOS and any applications, mobile applications, use web services, okay, to get the required data, right, from the web. So most particularly how this web services works and what is the special characteristics of these web services, I'm gonna discuss in this tutorial. Okay, so most services today run web services, okay, using a common stateless web architecture known as REST. Okay, so what is this REST stands for representational state transfer architecture. Okay, and that means web services that offer this architecture known as a RESTful services. So it stands for representational state transfer architecture. Okay, that means REST. Okay, and RESTful services are built using the standard web components and protocols. Okay, so how what are these standard web protocols? I mean, well, components and protocols. The protocols are that you make a request using this kind of method, that is get, post, put or delete, whereas you receive a response in a format of JSON or XML, right? So this is how we get access to the information. As for example, just think you as a client, like any mobile application as a client, and it is requesting for the data using these standard protocols provided by the REST. Okay, and there is a REST API in the cloud. We connect to the internet, we request for the required data, and from the cloud we get the required data from the database, and through the REST services we get the response in JSON or XML format, right? So this is a simple representation of a RESTful web services, how the process works. And as you can see, requests are made to the RESTful web service in standard ways through URI. So what is this URI, right? We have to make a request in a standard protocol that is using this URI. So what is URI? URI is a uniform resource identifier, but don't get confused about URI and URL, because URL is also a type of URI, because URI is kind of a uniform resource identifier which contains URL, also URL, documents, images, files, services, email address, like your email address or ISBN code, everything is a URI, that is a uniform resource identifier. So RESTful services make a request using this URI, right? And whereas URL is a uniform resource locator. And mostly we use URL, but it depends of your web services. Depending on your API, we use URL or URI. Okay, so and one of the most basic example of URL is this one. Okay, we use URL in the to make a request in a RESTful web services, right? So each web services request contains a URI and is transferred to a server using a same HTTP protocol that is used by the web browser. So HTTP request contains an operation to tell server what to do, right? So it tells the server what to do. Like for example, if you use get, we retrieve the server data, whereas if you use put or post, you update the server with the new data, whereas if you use delete as delete operation, then you delete the data from the server, right? And the server response has a formatted data, as I told you also in the figure. The response REST API will send you the response in a JSON or XML format. So, and this is the simple example of a JSON response format. Okay, so I will explain you in a detail what how to read the structure of the JSON response. So the structure of a simple JSON response sent by our RESTful API web services is this one. And JSON response is actually a array. Okay, it's an array of response. So indicated by the square bracket. If you, as you can see here, we have a array of a response which contains objects as you can see here, array contains different objects, and these objects are surrounded by the curly bracket, and which is separated by a comma, right? And each object contains also a set name value pair, as you can see here. Each object, first thing is it contains an array separate including this square bracket. Then it contains objects, and objects separated by comma, whereas each object contains this name value pair, and each name value pair is separated by a semicolon, and your name is surrounded by uh, this quote, whereas your value can be like an integer or a string. A string is surrounded by a quote, right? If you see here, so that's the idea here. Okay, and this is a simple response format in JSON response format, given by our RESTful API services, right? And I hope the things is clear about this, and so now also you have to understand, like, there are also queries. Okay, whenever we use URI to make a request to the REST API, it can also contain a URI queries. Queries are like a function parameters. Almost any RESTful services will also accept query parameters as a part of a URI. So query parameters are separated from the location of a service by a question mark. As you can see here, all the query parameters are separated by a question mark, whereas if you have multiple queries, they are separated by also a ampersand, like this like and symbol, like ampersand symbol. Okay, so servers can define as many and whatever parameters it need. Okay, so we can have as many parameters, query parameters, as we can, okay, which is all separated by this ampersand sign. All right, and also even these queries are also a name value pair. As you can see, type equals car. Okay, uh, and okay, so finally, this is my end of the brief explanation about RESTful web services. But we will be using, in my upcoming videos, I will be teaching you how to use a open source library called Retrofit to communicate with the backend services. Okay, so follow my next tutorial to learn more about this Retrofit implementation of Retrofit library. And the good thing about this Retrofit library is it creates the URI for the web services based on the parameter. So actually, Retrofit is already creating this URI for you, and based on whatever parameters we pass, and we can easily focus on our functionality. And it also, it's one of the best open source library to now communicate with the backend services. Okay, so okay, we will just follow me to know more about Retrofit in my upcoming videos. So thank you for listening. Hope I have explained you about the RESTful web services, and catch you later. Thank you.